Lieutenant Commander Maya Zhang stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, her eyes fixed on the blinking light on her screen. For 3 days straight, this strange signal had been coming from the Epsilon Tauri star system, a place no human had ever visited before. "Still no change in the signal, Commander," said Communications Officer Patel, her fingers moving quickly across her control panel. "It's definitely a distress call using Volari encryption." Maya nodded slowly. The Volari were one of 16 alien species that formed the Galactic Conclave, a loose alliance of spacefaring civilizations. With their tall, slender bodies and pale blue skin, the Volari were known for their advanced technology and peaceful nature. They had been among the first to welcome humans to the galactic community, despite their initial fears. "Any response to our hails?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. "None, Commander. Just the same automated distress pattern repeating." Maya walked to the large window at the front of the bridge, looking out at the distant stars. Nearly a century had passed since humans made first contact with alien life. It hadn't gone well at first. The aliens had been shocked by humans, calling them Deathworlders, creatures who evolved on a planet so dangerous that it seemed impossible anything intelligent could survive there. Earth, with its high gravity, toxic plants, dangerous predators, extreme weather and warlike history, was classified as a death world by Conclave standards. Most alien species had evolved on safer, more stable planets with fewer threats. They found humans terrifying, stronger, faster, and more durable than most Conclave species, with a natural instinct for violence that had developed over thousands of years of survival on a hostile planet. Message from Earth Fleet Headquarters. "Commander," announced Patel, "they're authorizing us to investigate the distress signal." Maya turned back to face her crew. The Pathfinder was a scout vessel with a crew of 30 humans. It wasn't designed for combat, but for exploration and first contact situations. Still, even this small ship had enough firepower to worry most Conclave species. Humans had learned caution through their bloody history. "Helm, set course for Epsilon Tauri," Maya ordered. "Standard approach pattern. Let's find out what happened to our Volari friends." First Officer Takeda, a compact man with an always serious expression, joined her at the command console. "The Volari don't venture this far from their core territories. Often," he said quietly. "Science mission, maybe?" "That would be my guess," Maya replied. "They're always pushing boundaries with their research. That's something humans and Volari have in common, at least." The ship's engines hummed as Lieutenant Park engaged the faster-than-light drive. The stars outside stretched into lines as the Pathfinder entered jump space. Maya used the 3-day journey to prepare her crew. The Pathfinder might be walking into anything from a simple mechanical failure to a natural disaster or even a pirate attack. Though rare in Conclave space, pirates did exist, usually operating in the borders between civilized systems. "All hands, this is Commander Zhang," she announced over the ship's communication system on the final day of their journey. "We will reach Epsilon Tauri in 6 hours. We don't know what we'll find there, but we will follow first contact protocols if we encounter any unknown ships or species. Stay sharp and remember your training." As the ship dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Epsilon Tauri system, the sensor stations immediately lit up with alerts. "Commander," called out Ensign Kelly from the sensor array, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting debris, a lot of it in orbit around the 4th planet." Maya felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "Analysis? Definitely Volari design signatures. I count at least 3 different ships, all destroyed. Some pieces show signs of weapons fire." The bridge fell silent. The Volari were peaceful, researchers and diplomats, not warriors. Few species would dare attack them, as doing so would bring the rest of the Conclave down on the aggressor. Yet someone or something had destroyed multiple Volari vessels in this system. "Maintain distance," Maya ordered. "Full sensor sweep. I want to know if whoever did this is still here." "The distress signal is still active," Patel reported, coming from a small automated beacon near the largest debris field. Maya studied the tactical display. Every instinct honed through her. Years of training told her something was wrong. The distress call had been broadcasting for too long without any conclave response. Either the attack was very recent or, "It's a trap," said Takeda, giving voice to her thoughts. His hand moved instinctively to where a weapon would be if they were in a ground situation. "Possibly," Maya agreed. "But we can't ignore it if there are survivors. Helm, bring us closer, but be ready for immediate evasive action. Tactical, power-up shields and defensive systems, but keep weapons cold. We're still here on a rescue mission until proven otherwise." The Pathfinder moved cautiously into the system, sensors sweeping constantly for any sign of danger. As they approached the debris field, the full extent of the destruction became clear. The Vulari ships had been systematically taken apart, not just destroyed. Pieces had been cut with surgical precision. "Commander," Kelly's voice was barely above a whisper now, "I'm detecting movement behind the gas giant. Something big is coming around." Maya straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Yellow alert. All hands to stations." The ship that emerged from behind the gas giant was unlike anything in the conclave registry. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflected it, making it look like a hole in space. Angular projections that could only be weapon systems jutted from its surface. It was followed by two more identical vessels. "No known configuration," reported Takeda, studying the sensor data. "Definitely not conclave design philosophy. Size estimate puts them at 3 times our mass." "Are they scanning us?" Maya asked. "Yes, Commander. Deep penetrating scans. Focused particularly on our life signs." Maya felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up. An ancient human warning system from their predator-filled evolutionary past. Whatever these ships were, they weren't here to help. "Open a channel," she ordered. Standard greeting. All frequencies. Patel tried for several tense minutes. "No response, Commander. They're receiving, but not answering." The strange ships were moving closer, spreading out to surround the Pathfinder in a classic hunting formation. Maya had seen enough. "Red alert. Shields up. Helm, be ready to get us out of here." As if triggered by her words, the lead alien ship fired. A beam of violet energy lanced across space, grazing the Pathfinder's shields as the human helmsman reacted, with speed impossible for most conclave species. "Evasive pattern Delta," Maya commanded, grabbing the rail as the ship lurched sideways. "Return to Earth space, maximum speed." As the Pathfinder twisted away from its attackers, Maya caught a glimpse of smaller craft being launched from the alien vessels, heading for the Vulari debris. They weren't just destroying the ships. They were collecting something. The Pathfinder raced away from Epsilon Tauri, carrying with it the first evidence of a new threat to the galaxy, and unknowingly, the beginning of humanity's new role among the stars. The UES Pathfinder raced through space, its engines pushed beyond recommended limits. Lieutenant Commander Maya Zhang sat in her command chair, reviewing the sensor data they had collected during their brief but frightening encounter in the Epsilon Tauri system. "How soon until we reach Earth communication range?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the tension everyone felt. Lieutenant Park at the helm checked his instruments. "Approximately 12 hours, Commander. We're moving as fast as this ship can go." Maya nodded. 12 hours before they could warn Earth and the Galactic Conclave about the strange ships that had attacked them and destroyed the Vulari vessels. 12 hours during which those black ships could be doing who knows what else. "First Officer Takeda, join me in the analysis room," she said, standing up. "Lieutenant Park, you have the bridge. Maintain course and speed. Alert me immediately if sensors detect any pursuit." In the small analysis room off the main bridge, Maya and Takeda studied the images and data readings from their encounter. The black ships looked even more menacing when viewed on the large screen. "No markings, no identifying features," Takeda said, pointing to the smooth hull. "And nothing in the Conclave database matches this design." Maya frowned. "What about their weapons? That purple energy beam nearly cut through our shields with one shot." Takeda brought up the energy readings. "Some kind of focused plasma weapon, more powerful than anything the Conclave uses. The Vulari ships wouldn't have stood a chance. And then there's this," Maya said, pulling up the final images they had captured before jumping to FTL. The screen showed small craft leaving the black ships, heading toward the destroyed Vulari vessels. They were collecting something, or someone. Takeda's expression darkened. Survivors? Or bodies, Maya said quietly. The question is why. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent call from the bridge. Commander, we're detecting a ship. On pursuit course. It appears to be one of the alien vessels from Epsilon Tauri. Maya and Takeda rushed back to the bridge. On the main screen, a single black ship was visible, moving faster than their sensor analysis had suggested was possible. Time to intercept? Maya asked, sliding back into her command chair. At current speeds, they'll catch us in 3 hours, Park reported, well before we reach Earth communication range. Maya's mind raced through options. The Pathfinder was not designed for combat against a ship that size. Running was their best option, but it wasn't working. Can we go any faster? She asked. Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Not without burning out the engines completely, Commander. We're already pushing them to 120%. Maya made her decision. Set course for the Barnard Star mining outpost. It's closer than Earth, and they have a military communication relay. We need to get our warning out. Aye, Commander. Changing course now, Park acknowledged. The course change bought them some time, but the alien ship adjusted quickly. It was now just 2 hours behind them. They're too determined to just let us go, Takeda observed. They must not want us reporting what we saw. Maya agreed. Or they're interested in us specifically. Remember how their scans focused on our biology? Humans are new to the galactic scene. Maybe they've never encountered Deathworlders before. The thought was troubling. Most species found humans frightening because of their natural strength and durability, results of evolving on the harsh planet Earth. If these aliens were hunting conclave species, humans might represent either a threat or a particularly interesting target. Commander, called out Ensign Kelly from the sensor station. I've been analyzing their pursuit pattern. They're not using their full speed. They could catch us sooner if they wanted to. They're hurting us, Takeda realized. Driving us away from Earth, Maya's expression hardened. Humans had evolved as both prey and predator on Earth. Their ancestors had been hunted by dangerous animals for millions of years before becoming hunters themselves. This feeling of being stalked was deeply familiar to human instinct. Well, two can play that game, she said. Tactical, power-up weapon systems. Ensign Kelly, find me a dense asteroid field or nebula along our route. The bridge crew looked surprised, but moved quickly to follow orders. Here, Commander, Kelly said after a few minutes. A mining debris field around Barnard's third planet. Lots of metallic asteroids and dust. It will affect both our sensors and theirs. Perfect. Helm, set course, maximum speed, Maya ordered. Tactical, prepare a surprise for our hunters. The Pathfinder changed course again, heading for the debris field. As expected, the alien ship adjusted to follow. What's your plan, Commander? Takeda asked quietly. They think we're just running scared, Maya replied. But humans come from a world where you sometimes have to turn and fight even when outmatched. We can't outrun them, but maybe we can outsmart them. The Pathfinder reached the debris field and slowed, navigating carefully through the floating rocks and metal pieces left over from decades of mining operations. They're still following, maintaining distance, reported Kelly. Their sensors must be affected by the debris too. Maya nodded. Good. Here's what we're going to do. Engineering, prepare to vent plasma from our starboard nacelle on my mark. Tactical, load 2 proximity mines. We're going to set a trap. For the next 30 minutes, the Pathfinder moved deeper into the debris field, seemingly struggling as it navigated between asteroids. In reality, Maya was positioning her ship exactly where she wanted it. They're closing distance now, Kelly reported. I think they believe we're having engine problems. Perfect, Maya said. All hands brace for high G maneuvers. Helm on my mark. Full reverse, then hard to port between those 2 large asteroids. Engineering, vent plasma. Tactical, deploy mines. The crew secured themselves in their seats. Humans could withstand G-forces that would kill most conclave species. Another, advantage of their Deathworld evolution. Mark, Maya commanded. The Pathfinder suddenly stopped, reversed thrusters firing at maximum, and then turned sharply between two massive asteroids. At the same moment, a cloud of glowing engine plasma erupted from its right side, and two small objects drifted out among the debris. The black ship, not expecting this maneuver, shot past their position. When it hit the plasma cloud, the proximity mines detonated, sending shockwaves and shrapnel against its hull. "Direct hit," shouted the tactical officer. "Their shields are down." "Target their propulsion system," Maya ordered. "One shot, then we run." The Pathfinder's modest weapons fired once at the alien ship's engines. The targeted strike connected, causing the black vessel to spin sideways, temporarily disabled. "Now maximum speed to Barnard Star Outpost," Maya commanded. "And prepare our message for transmission as soon as we're in range." As they sped away, leaving the damaged alien ship behind, Takeda looked at Maya with new respect. "They didn't expect that. They thought we were just prey." Maya's expression was grim. "That's the mistake everyone makes about humans. We know what it's like to be hunted, but we also know how to hunt back. Whoever these aliens are, they just learned that Deathworlders don't go down easily." The Pathfinder reached the Barnard Star Outpost 2 hours later. Their warning message spread quickly through human space and to the Conclave. For the first time, the galaxy would see what humans did when truly threatened. The Deathworlders were going to war. Admiral Helena Rousseau stood by the large window in Earth Fleet headquarters, looking out at the busy space dock. Through the thick glass, she could see crews loading weapons and supplies onto warships. Spacecraft of all sizes moved in careful patterns, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. Earth was preparing for war. 3 days had passed since the UES Pathfinder arrived with news of the attack on the Vulari ships and their own narrow escape. 3 days of emergency meetings, military preparations, and diplomatic talks with the Galactic Conclave. "Admiral, the United Earth Council is ready for your presentation," said her aide, a young lieutenant. Rousseau nodded. At 62 years old, she had spent 4 decades in Earth's military. Her weathered face and gray hair showed her years of service. She gathered her data tablet and walked to the council chamber. Inside, 20 council members sat around a U-shaped table. These elected officials represented all regions of Earth and its colonies. At a smaller table to the side sat 3 aliens, representatives from the Galactic Conclave. The tallest alien was Ambassador Tavari, one of the few Vulari who could visit Earth, even with assistance. His slender blue body was supported by a special exoskeleton that helped him move in Earth's heavy gravity. Next to him sat representatives from the Durasi and Jovian species, both wearing environmental suits designed for their unique biology. "Admiral Rousseau, please begin your briefing," said Council President Chen, a stern-looking woman with sharp eyes. Rousseau stepped to the center of the room. Above her, a holographic display activated, showing footage from the Pathfinder's encounter. 3 days ago, the UES Pathfinder investigated a Vulari distress signal in the Epsilon Tauri system. Rousseau began. They found destroyed Vulari ships and encountered these unknown vessels. The hologram showed the black ships firing on the Pathfinder. We're calling them harvesters based on their behavior. Intelligence analysis suggests they've been systematically targeting Vulari science vessels, particularly those on biological research missions. Ambassador Tavari trembled visibly. His voice came through a translator device. 17 Vulari ships have gone missing in the past 2 months. We had no idea what was happening to them until now. Rousseau nodded. The Pathfinder's data shows the harvesters were collecting biological samples, or possibly survivors, from the wreckage. When they detected the human ship, they attempted to capture it as well. She played the recording of the Pathfinder's escape and clever counterattack. Several council members nodded with approval. Commander Zhang showed exceptional tactics, Rousseau continued. Most importantly, she got the warning to us. But we've confirmed that 3 more Vulari research stations have gone silent since then. The harvesters are expanding their activities. Council President Chen leaned forward. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" Rousseau's expression was firm. "A full military response. The harvesters represent a clear threat to both humanity And the Conclave. I propose Operation Sentinel Shield. Deployment of our fleet to protect Conclave territory and locate the Harvester's base of operations. The Durasi ambassador spoke up, his methane-breathing suit making soft, hissing sounds. The Conclave appreciates Earth's concern, but our peaceful alliance has never faced a military threat of this scale. Perhaps diplomatic approaches. With respect, Ambassador, Rousseau interrupted. The Harvesters aren't interested in diplomacy. They're treating your people as specimens to be collected. They attacked without communication or warning. The room fell silent. Humans understood violence in a way most conclave species did not. Earth's long history was filled with wars and conflicts. While they had overcome much of this in their modern society, humans still maintained powerful defensive capabilities, a necessity for a species from a death world. How many ships are you suggesting we deploy, Admiral? Asked a council member. 5 carrier groups, Rousseau replied, each centered around a dreadnought, full combat readiness. The council members exchanged looks. This would be the largest military operation since Earth unified its governments 50 years ago. Ambassador Tavari spoke again. The Conclave Defense Fleet will support your efforts. Our ships are primarily designed for peacekeeping, but we can assist with evacuations and medical support. Rousseau nodded respectfully. That would be most helpful, Ambassador. Your ships should focus on evacuating vulnerable research stations and outposts. The Harvesters seem particularly interested in Volari biology. What she didn't say aloud was equally clear. This would be humanity's fight. The Conclave species evolved on peaceful worlds weren't prepared for this kind of conflict. But humans with their death world strength and instincts were born ready. The debate continued for another hour, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Humanity had joined the galactic community as peaceful explorers and traders, but they had never forgotten how to fight. When the final vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would go to war to protect their allies. As the meeting ended, Admiral Rousseau approached the Conclave representatives. We'll need all the information you have on the sectors where ships have gone missing, she said. My analysts will look for patterns that might lead us to their base. Ambassador Tavari studied her with his large, gold-colored eyes. You humans are remarkable creatures, he said softly. When our scientists first discovered your world, many thought it impossible that intelligent life could evolve in such harsh conditions. We were frightened by your strength, your durability, your natural aggression. And now? Rousseau asked. Now, I understand why your kind developed those traits, Tavari replied. You become defensive of others as fiercely as yourselves. It is not how my species would respond, but it is admirable. Rousseau smiled slightly. We're just doing what humans have always done, Ambassador. We protect our own, and the Conclave is now our own. Within 48 hours, Operation Sentinel Shield mobilized. 5 massive carrier groups assembled in Earth orbit, each built around a dreadnought, the largest warships humans had ever constructed. These ships were crewed entirely by humans, men and women who could endure stresses that would kill most Conclave species. On the bridge of the flagship UES Leviathan, Admiral Rousseau reviewed the final deployment orders. The plan was simple, but effective. 3 carrier groups would patrol the borders of Conclave space while 2 would actively hunt for Harvester vessels and attempt to track them back to their base. Admiral, all ships report ready for departure, one announced her executive officer. Rousseau nodded. Send the order. Operation Sentinel Shield is now active. Across Earth orbit, engines flared to life as the fleet began to move. The Deathworlders were going to war, and the galaxy was about to witness what humans were truly capable of when provoked. As the massive ships accelerated away from Earth, intelligence reports confirmed the worst fears. Another Volari outpost had gone silent. The Harvesters were continuing their campaign. They had never encountered humans before the Pathfinder incident. They had no idea what they had awakened. Captain Miguel Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Thermopylae, one of Earth's powerful strike cruisers. Through the main view screen, he could see the Volari research station, Helios. The large, elegant structure was surrounded by 17 harvester vessels. The black ships circled the station like hungry sharks, methodically cutting into its hull with violet energy beams. "All ships in position, Captain," reported his tactical officer. Santos nodded. The Thermopylae led a squadron of 8 human warships, part of Admiral Rousseau's second battle group. They had arrived just in time. "Open a channel to all our ships," Santos ordered. His dark eyes never left the screen as the harvesters continued their attack, unaware of the human fleet hiding behind a nearby moon. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Santos. We all know our mission. These harvesters have been hunting peaceful researchers, treating sentient beings like lab specimens. Today they learn what happens when they face predators instead of prey." He paused. "Remember, priority targets are harvester vessels attempting specimen collection. Weapons free on my mark." The human crews prepared for battle. Unlike the elegant, almost artistic ships of the conclave species, human vessels were designed with practical efficiency. Their weapons were powerful, their shields strong. Most importantly, their crews could withstand physical stresses that would kill most conclave species. "Launch fighters! All ships attack pattern Delta, mark!" Santos commanded. The human fleet moved as one, emerging from behind the moon at full speed. Small fighter craft shot ahead of the larger vessels, their engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. The harvesters reacted with visible surprise. Their formations broke as they turned to face this new threat. Their violet weapons fired, but the human ships had been prepared for them after studying the Pathfinder's data. "Shields holding at 92%, reported the defensive systems officer, as the Thermopylae took a direct hit. "Their weapons are powerful but not as effective against our recalibrated shields." Santos nodded. "Return fire. Target their lead vessel." The Thermopylae's main batteries unleashed a barrage of concentrated energy. The shots struck the first harvester ship with devastating effect, breaking through its shields and tearing into its hull. The black vessel shuddered, then broke apart as secondary explosions rippled through its structure. Around them, the battle unfolded with brutal efficiency. Human fighters swarmed around the larger harvester vessels, targeting weapon systems and engines. 3 harvester ships broke formation to intercept the Thermopylae, firing those same violet energy beams that had nearly crippled the Pathfinder. Santos watched calmly as his ship rocked from another impact. Where most conclave captains would have retreated from such an assault, he pressed forward. "Bring us closer to the second vessel," he ordered. "All batteries, continuous fire. Don't give them time to adapt." The human crew responded instantly, driving the massive warship straight toward its target. The Thermopylae shuddered under the strain of acceleration and enemy fire, but held together. Human engineers built their ships as tough as themselves. "Captain," called out the sensor officer suddenly, "I'm detecting Volari life signs inside the research station. At least 200 individuals, most in some kind of stasis." Santos's expression hardened. "They're collecting specimens just as we suspected. Communications, inform Admiral Rousseau that we've confirmed capture of conclave citizens." As the battle continued, the tide quickly turned against the harvesters. Their ships were technologically advanced, but they fought as individuals. The human fleet moved with coordinated precision, protecting each other and focusing fire on key targets. When the third harvester vessel exploded under the Thermopylae's assault, Santos noticed something new. "Small craft launching from the destroyed vessel," reported the tactical officer. "Escape pods." Santos made a quick decision. "Capture those pods. I want prisoners. We need to know who we're fighting." Meanwhile, aboard the flagship UES Leviathan, Admiral Rousseau directed the broader battle. The holographic display before her showed the positions of all vessels in real time. Battle Group 3 reports they've secured the Volari outpost in the Rigel sector, her communications officer announced. "No casualties among the Volari staff. The harvesters retreated when our ships arrived." Rousseau nodded with satisfaction. All across conclave space, human fleets were engaging harvester vessels. The initial reports were promising. The harvesters fought well, but they had clearly never faced an enemy like humans before. "Admiral," called out her sensor officer suddenly. "The harvesters in Sector 7 are trying to send a long-range signal. Direction suggests it's aimed toward the Galactic core." "Jam it," Rousseau ordered instantly. "They don't get to call for reinforcements and track the signal source. It might lead us to their base." The battle for Research Station Helios lasted just under 2 hours. When it ended, 12 harvester vessels had been destroyed or captured. The remaining 5 fled into faster-than-light travel, but not before human ships tagged them with tiny tracking devices. Captain Santos led the first team of Marines to board the Volari research station. Inside they found row after row of stasis pods, each containing a sedated Volari scientist or technician. "They're alive," reported the human medical officer, scanning the nearest pod. "Vital signs stable, but they've been sedated with some kind of neural suppressant." Santos looked at the hundreds of pods lining the walls. "Get them all out safely. We're taking them home." In another part of the station, human Marines made an even more disturbing discovery. The harvesters had set up temporary laboratories, filled with biological samples from multiple conclave species. "Sir," a Marine sergeant called to Santos over the comm, "you need to see this." In a secure room, they found computer systems with detailed biological analyses of 16 different species, all members of the Galactic Conclave. The data was organized methodically, with species arranged according to their physical durability, from the fragile Volari to the more robust Jovians. "They're studying them," Santos realized, "categorizing them by physical capabilities." "Where are humans on this list?" asked his executive officer. Santos reviewed the alien data. "We're not. They hadn't encountered us before the Pathfinder. But based on their classification system," he pointed to the bottom of the list where the physically strongest conclave species were categorized, "we would be off their chart. Deathworlder physiology would put us beyond their existing categories." As human ships secured the research station and began evacuating the Volari scientists, Admiral Rousseau received the preliminary reports. The harvesters had been conducting a methodical study of conclave biology, working their way systematically through species, starting with the physically weakest. The tracking devices on the fleeing harvester ships were working perfectly. For the first time, Earth forces had a trail to follow back to the enemy's territory. "Set course to follow the tracking signals," Rousseau ordered. "All battle groups, coordinate pursuit patterns. We're taking this fight to them." Across conclave space, word spread of the human victory. Species that had once feared the Deathworlders now watched in amazement as humanity's military might was unleashed not to conquer, but to protect. The harvesters had made a terrible mistake in targeting the conclave. They had unknowingly awakened the most dangerous species in the region, humans from Earth, the Deathworld. The Galactic Conclave had never seen warfare on this scale before. On the main view screen of the Conclave Security Council chamber, holographic displays showed the movements of Earth fleet vessels across multiple star systems. For most conclave, species conflict resolution involved careful negotiation, with limited defensive actions only if absolutely necessary. The concept of a full military offensive was alien to their philosophy. Not so for humanity. Admiral Rousseau stood before the gathered representatives, her uniform crisp, despite having just arrived from the front lines. Behind her, the tactical display showed 27 harvester ships in defensive formation around what appeared to be a mobile processing facility. This base was located 40 light-years beyond conclave territory, in a previously unexplored region of space. "The tracking devices worked perfectly," Rousseau explained. "We followed the retreating harvester vessels to this location. Intelligence extracted from captured harvesters suggests this is one of 4 forward operating bases they've established in this sector." Earth President Chen, who had traveled to the conclave station for this emergency meeting, studied the display with a grim expression. Her dark eyes missed nothing as she analyzed the enemy positions. "And you believe they've been operating in this region for some time?" she asked. "Yes, Madam President. According to our interrogation of captured harvesters, they've been active in this sector for nearly 30 years, collecting biological specimens from pre-spaceflight civilizations. The conclave representatives shifted uncomfortably in their gravity-adjusted seats. The implications were disturbing. How many developing species had been subjected to harvester experimentation? The Derasi ambassador, his methane-breathing environmental suit hissing softly, spoke first. The conclave appreciates Earth's intervention, but we must urge restraint. These harvesters, while clearly hostile, may be open to diplomatic. They're dissecting your people, interrupted General Okoye, the head of Earth's ground forces. Her voice was calm but direct. The laboratory ships we captured contained specimens from 11 different species, 3 of which are conclave members. They don't see you as equals to negotiate with. You're research subjects. President Chen raised a hand to restore order. What the general means, she said diplomatically, is that the harvesters have demonstrated a fundamental disregard for sentient rights. Our intelligence suggests they classify other species hierarchically based on physical capabilities. Which means, Admiral Rousseau continued, they understand strength. Operation Phalanx will demonstrate exactly what happens when you threaten a species that evolved on a death world. Rousseau activated a different display, showing the planned Earth fleet movements. All 5 battle groups would strike simultaneously at the 4 known harvester bases. Special operations teams would board their laboratory vessels to recover any surviving captives, and humanity would push forward to the harvesters' home territory to force terms of surrender. The conclave representatives were stunned by the scale of the operation. Their own peacekeeping forces typically operated in small groups, using minimal force when absolutely necessary. Such an operation would require significant casualties, ventured the Vulari ambassador, his slender blue fingers trembling slightly. Admiral Rousseau's expression was like steel. We're counting on it. Harvester casualties, that's the point. After the meeting concluded, the Derasi ambassador approached President Chen privately. The methane breather moved with careful steps in his environmental suit. Your species evolved differently than ours, he said quietly. The conditions of Earth shaped humans into warriors. Chen's smile was sad but proud. We evolved as prey animals, Ambassador, constantly hunted. Then we became predators ourselves. We understand both sides of that equation better than most. The harvesters picked the wrong prey this time. 3 days later, Operation Phalanx launched. The full might of Earth's military capability revealed itself not just to the harvesters, but to a watching conclave. Humanity had restrained itself for decades, presenting a diplomatic face to the galactic community. Now the Deathworlders showed why their world had forged them through fire and blood for millions of years. The first target was the Harvester Forward base that Admiral Rousseau had shown to the conclave. 27 enemy vessels against 16 Earth warships seemed like poor odds to the conclave observers, but they didn't understand how humans fought. Captain Santos of the Thermopylae led the initial assault. His strike group approached from below the orbital plane, using a nearby gas giant to mask their signatures until the last possible moment. All ships, attack pattern Epsilon, he ordered. Fighters launch on my mark. Remember, primary targets are their communication arrays and propulsion systems. We want them isolated and immobile. The human attack shocked the harvesters into momentary disarray. Unlike the elegant, almost ceremonial combat styles of the few conclave species with military traditions, humans fought with calculated brutality, overwhelming force applied to critical vulnerabilities. Human fighters swarmed from carrier ships, attacking in formations that constantly shifted and adapted. The larger vessels targeted the Harvester command ships with devastating barrages. Within the first hour, 6 Harvester vessels had been disabled, and 3 more destroyed when they refused to surrender. Aboard the UES Leviathan, Admiral Rousseau coordinated the broader offensive. Reports flowed in from the other 3 battle groups, all reporting similar success. The harvesters fought bravely but were clearly unprepared for the intensity and coordination of the human assault. Admiral, reported her communications officer, the harvesters are attempting to send a distress signal toward their home system. Let it through, Rousseau ordered, surprising her staff. I want their leaders to see exactly what's happening. Here. As the battle continued, Human special forces boarded the Harvester laboratory vessels. Inside, they found more horrors. Hundreds of specimens from dozens of species in various stages of examination. Many were already dead, but some still lived in stasis pods. Commander Ortiz, leading the rescue operation, reported directly to Rousseau. "Admiral, we've found captives from at least 14 different species. Medical teams are working to stabilize them, but some have been here for months under experimentation." Rousseau's jaw tightened. "Document everything, Commander. The galaxy needs to see what these harvesters have been doing." By the end of the third day, all 4 Harvester forward bases had been captured or destroyed. 53 enemy vessels had been neutralized, with 22 surrendering once they realized the futility of resistance. Earth had lost 7 ships and nearly 300 personnel, a painful cost but one that humans understood sometimes had to be paid. The prisoners and lab data provided the final piece of information Earth needed: coordinates to the Harvester home system. Their civilization occupied 12 planets around 3 stars in a tight cluster, previously unknown to the Conclave. In an emergency session of the United Earth Council, Admiral Rousseau laid out the next phase of the operation. The Harvesters now understand they're facing a superior force, but their leadership still believes they can negotiate from a position of strength. She highlighted the Harvester home system on the tactical display. "I propose we take a battle fleet directly to their primary world to make our position absolutely clear." President Chen studied the plan carefully. "This isn't about revenge, Admiral. Make sure everyone understands that. This is about security, for Earth, for the Conclave, and for all the developing species the Harvesters have been targeting." "Understood, Madam President. We'll offer terms: immediate release of all captives, cessation of all non-consensual research, and reparations to affected species. We'll also require a permanent monitoring presence in their territory to ensure compliance." The vote was unanimous. 3 days later, Earth Fleet's most powerful battle group, led by the dreadnought Leviathan, jumped to FTL heading for the Harvester home system. The message was clear: the Deathworlders were coming, and they would accept nothing less than complete surrender. 6 months after Operation Phalanx began, Admiral Helena Rousseau stood once again before the Galactic Conclave Assembly. This time she was on their headquarters station orbiting the neutral world of Axis Prime. The elegant chamber was filled with representatives from all 16 spacefaring species that made up the Conclave. Behind her, a large display showed the current positions of Earth fleet vessels patrolling the borders of Conclave space. Rousseau's uniform was adorned with new medals, symbols of humanity's first interstellar conflict. Despite her formal appearance, weariness showed in her eyes. War, even a necessary one, always took its toll. "The Harvesters have agreed to all our terms," she announced to the assembled representatives. "Their Leadership Council has signed the SOL Accords, agreeing to cease all non-consensual biological sampling and to return all specimens currently in stasis." The chamber filled with sounds of relief from multiple species, from the high trilling of the bird-like kestrel to the deep rumbling of the massive Jovians. For many Conclave species, the concept of warfare was so foreign that they had feared the conflict would never end. "Furthermore," Rousseau continued, "they have provided reparations in the form of medical and scientific data that doesn't violate ethical boundaries and have agreed to restricted diplomatic contact moving forward." What she didn't mention was the classified part of the SOL Accords. The Harvester homeworld now hosted a permanent human military installation, monitoring their compliance. The Deathworlders hadn't needed to destroy their enemy. Demonstrating superior force had been enough. The Vulari High Chancellor rose from his seat, his delicate blue frame requiring support in the station's artificial gravity. Even with assistance, movement was difficult for him in gravity higher than his homeworld's. "The Conclave owes humanity a debt we cannot fully express," he said formally. "You responded to a simple distress call with the full might of your civilization. You risked your people to save ours." Admiral Rousseau shook her head slightly. "Chancellor, with respect, that's what humans do. Our evolutionary history taught us that the strong protect, or everything falls apart. The true revelation for the Conclave wasn't just humanity's military prowess. It was what humans did with victory. Where the Conclave had expected humans to demand territory or resources, they had established protection. Where they anticipated dominance, humans created partnership. After the formal session concluded, the Derisi ambassador approached Rousseau in the reception hall. His methane-breathing suit made soft hissing sounds as he walked. "Your species confounds our xenopsychologists, Admiral," he admitted. "You possess the capacity for violence beyond anything in Conclave experience, yet you exercise restraint that defies our predictions." Rousseau considered this as she looked out the window at the stars. "Perhaps that's the real legacy of evolving on a death world, Ambassador. We learned that strength without compassion destroys itself. The same adaptability that made us dangerous makes us excellent allies." "A fascinating perspective," the ambassador replied. "Many of us feared what would happen when humans joined the galactic community. Your world's gravity, atmosphere, and wildlife would kill most of us within minutes. We thought beings evolved in such conditions would naturally seek to conquer." Rousseau smiled slightly. "Humans tried conquest among ourselves for thousands of years. It never brought lasting peace. We learned that protection and cooperation work better than domination. It just took us a while to figure that out." Turkey. Weeks later, the Conclave voted unanimously to establish the Joint Defense Initiative, a military cooperation program with Earth as its cornerstone. Conclave species would provide technology and intelligence. Humans would provide the fighting capability many Conclave species physically lacked. On the observation deck of the UES Pathfinder, Lieutenant Commander Maya Zhang watched as 3 Vulari ships practiced formation flying alongside human vessels. The Pathfinder, now famous throughout Conclave space for its first encounter with the Harvesters, had been upgraded and assigned as a training vessel for the new Joint Defense Force. "It still feels strange, doesn't it?" said First Officer Takeda, joining her by the window. 6 months ago, we were running for our lives from those Harvester ships. Now we're teaching combat tactics to the Conclave." Maya nodded. "Everything changed when we answered that distress call. The Vulari pilot I've been working with asked me something interesting yesterday," Takeda said. "She wanted to know why humans were so willing to fight for species so different from ourselves. I wasn't sure how to answer." Maya thought about this. "What did you tell her?" "I said that on Earth, the strong have a responsibility to protect the vulnerable. It's built into our cultures because it's how we survived as a species." Takeda shrugged. "Not sure if that made sense to her." "It makes perfect sense to me," Maya replied. "The Conclave feared us for so long because we came from a world that should have killed us. They never considered that the same history made us uniquely qualified to protect them." Below them on the training deck, human instructors worked patiently with Conclave species from 6 different worlds. Some, like the Jovians, had natural strength but lacked combat experience. Others, like the Vulari, had brilliant strategic minds but physical limitations. Together with humans, they were becoming something new, a force focused on protection rather than conquest. In the 6 months since the conflict began, much had changed across Conclave space. Harvester prisoners had revealed that their society had been conducting specimen collection for centuries, focusing primarily on pre-spaceflight civilizations that couldn't defend themselves. They had categorized species purely by their physical capabilities, seeing those with less strength or durability as natural research subjects. When they encountered the Conclave, the Harvesters had simply continued their standard practices, never expecting significant resistance. The arrival of humans, Deathworlders whose physical capabilities exceeded their classification system, had been a shock they weren't prepared for. Now, under human supervision, the Harvesters were beginning the long process of making amends. The specimens they had collected were being returned to their home worlds. Their scientific data was being reviewed for ethical use. And slowly, they were learning a lesson humans had discovered long ago: that strength brings responsibility, not just power. On the bridge of the UES Leviathan, Admiral Rousseau reviewed reports from the Joint Defense Initiative's first month of operations. Progress was slow but steady. Many conclave species struggled with the very concept of military defense, but they were learning. "Admiral," her aide said, entering with a data tablet. "We've received a transmission from the Ketrel Border Patrol. They've detected an unknown vessel entering conclave space." Rousseau took the tablet, reviewing the preliminary data. "Unknown configuration, not harvester design. Send the Pathfinder to investigate. Commander Zhang has the most experience with first contact situations." Within an hour, the Pathfinder was underway, carrying a mixed crew of humans and conclave species. Whatever they would find, they would face it together. The Deathworlders had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors but as defenders. As Maya Zhang prepared her ship for its new mission, she reflected on how much had changed since that first distress call. The Conclave had feared humans because of where they came from, a world of high gravity, dangerous predators, and constant survival challenges. Now they understood that those same challenges had created perfect protectors. "Commander," called out her new Vulari communications officer, "I'm receiving transmission from the unknown vessel. It appears to be..." "A greeting?" Maya smiled. "Open a channel. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The galaxy was a dangerous place, but it had found an unexpected guardian in the species from Earth. The Deathworlders who had answered a distress call and discovered their true purpose among the stars. The end.